Excuse me. If I can encourage everyone to come in, we'd like to start this morning's proceedings. I know many of you are on busy schedules, and we've got a number of important things to deal with this morning. Everybody maybe want to come in just a little bit so you can see all these proceedings, and everybody in the order. First of all, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for taking the time out this morning to join us for what is a very important celebration for all of us here at Solar. As many of you know, this ISO certification process goes right to the heart of what we're about, beginning with our mission statement, which calls for a focus on customer needs. And I think as this morning's program unfolds, you'll see that that's exactly what we've done. Our number one critical success factor, which calls for a commitment to uncompromising quality and to a process of continuous quality improvement. A key action item under that number one critical success factor has been to obtain ISO 9001 certification for our operations during the course of 1992. And I'm very proud to say that we have done well with that action item. We also had a charge to that team, to George Zalatin and all the people who worked closely with him in that process. And that charge was to be sure we get certified in a manner that provides a platform for continuous quality improvement and for ongoing cost reduction in our operations. And I think they've served us well in that regard also. Before we get too much further into the proceedings, I want to take just a minute to thank especially our outside guests who've taken the time from their busy calendars to join us this morning. We have people here from the local business community, the Chamber, EDC, from the California Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce, and from the World Trade Association of San Diego. So we appreciate very much your time in joining us. We also have a few customers in the audience. I won't try to mention everyone because I haven't had an opportunity to meet everyone today, but we appreciate the customer participation for those of you that are here today. Most of us in this room are well aware of the importance of this ISO certification and of the challenge that it posed to us in achieving this certification. But I wanted to take just a minute to recap some of the highlights of Solar's journey in this process. It's critically important to us because over 70% of our sales are in the international marketplace, meaning outside the United States or exports. And those customers are increasingly demanding ISO certification. The process started in the EEC as the European countries looked for standard quality measure and certification across those country lines. It's now grown to over 50 countries nationwide requesting ISO certification from their vendors, and probably will come to the United States one of these days. So it's very definitely a customer requirement. Quite honestly, when we got into the process, we had a little bit of reluctance about ISO certification. The reluctance stemming from the fact that we didn't want a quality bureaucracy, so to speak. We didn't want to drive cost and the wrong behaviors. And so we've migrated really from a reluctance to pursue ISO certification to an outright embrace of the concept, and I think we've driven some very positive behavior in the process. We've incorporated the ISO certification process into the total company drive for quality and for continuous quality improvement. The ISO certification team that we formed, which George has headed up, has been a relatively small and focused team. They have worked well with the whole corporation. They had a lot of sponsorship from the Quality Council. They got ISO champions, which were the grassroots of the company, if you will, in every functional area to help them with the process. And this morning's certification is really a testimonial to a cast of hundreds, and I'm sure George will talk a little more about that later. I think, fittingly enough, this morning I gave a 40-year service anniversary pin out in Kearney Mesa. And a guy by the name of Lee Rich, who's the lead man in the hose group, I usually take a few minutes before I give a 40-year service pin to ask people what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And I asked Lee what he thought we ought to be doing differently in the company, in which he launched into just a testimonial, if you will, on the ISO 9000 process and the benefits that he saw. He said, we just need to keep doing what we're doing. And he also said it's the best thing that's happened in terms of helping us with quality and giving us a foundation for improving quality of anything he's seen in 40 years in the company. This is from a lead guy on the shop floor. That's a testimonial. As you know, our ISO efforts have focused on discrete business units, and we've gone business unit by business unit in trying to obtain this certification. This morning we're here to honor and recognize the Power Systems Operations Group, Kearney Mesa, Turbo Machinery Operations, primarily the group here at Harbor Drive, our Superior Gear Operations, and Construction Services. These organizations have established quality systems and control procedures which have qualified them to be certified for conforming to the ISO quality standards. George will be introducing our DNV auditors in just a few minutes, and they're going to further elaborate on this certification process. But let me just close by saying that it's been a very demanding and a very exciting 15-month journey. It's touched on things that are at the core of what we're trying to accomplish. As I mentioned, a platform for continuous quality improvement, for driving our costs down. It's involved a very extensive employee education and training, and that process is ongoing and something we certainly want to nurture. It involved an extensive amount of teaming and empowerment. In order to get this job done, we had to have that. It's a very successful thing. It's helped drive some correct culture. And it's given us a focus on customer needs and expectations and shown us that we can meet those. DNV has been a very, not only have they been our auditor, they've been a very active partner in this whole process of obtaining this certification. They've given us a lot of very constructive assistance and support for which we're indebted. And they're going to be around on an ongoing basis. There are re-audits every 6 months to help keep us reminded of things that we need to be doing, and hopefully, again, these re-audits will give us ongoing constructive suggestions on how to improve further. And then every 3 years, we'll go through a recertification process. So it's an ongoing challenge. The work's never quite done. That's the nature of continuous improvement. But I am extremely proud of the Solar team and what you have done working together to accomplish this very challenging objective. And it's a great pleasure for me to introduce George Zalatin, who's been the project chairman for this ISO effort. George has just done a spectacular job of energizing the whole company. And George, the microphone, George, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you. First thing I'd like to say, it's just a pleasure to see so many of the key contributors to the success of this program here today. Thank you very much for coming, and it's a real pleasure to see you all here. I also want to extend my personal thanks to all of you for the effort and dedication and the support that you've all given this project. It's just been so encouraging to work with the team here, and I'm just very proud of our success and the chance to work with all of you. This is a major milestone today. It really is a foundation that I hope we all learn to build upon and really take this as another step to strengthen our position as the world-leading producer of turbo machinery systems. I didn't know what I wanted to say today, but I want to share with you a little experience we just had. We recently had a executive from CAT General Offices out here to visit us. And the people back in Peoria have heard a little bit about our program, and they're getting interested in the ISO certification process. So they sent Bill Cronk from General Offices out here to do an investigation on what really was happening at Solar in this ISO program. This really, in my mind, sums up a lot of what's really happened here. I want to read a couple quotes from Bill. Bill states in his, he's got a 4-page report here. I'm not going to bore you with all the detail, but just a couple sentences here. They have a ISO roadmap, architectural strategy, critical success factor, and implementation strategy and overall guidelines, all of which are aimed at the customer and value-adding purpose, which goes far beyond the registration of ISO 9000. This represents a serious and professional approach to the total quality system philosophy and accomplishment of improvements for the customer and Solar. I was very favorably impressed by the overall enthusiasm and opinions of everyone I met with regard to the value and the need for the new quality program at Solar, which is represented by their ISO 9000 efforts. Everyone sees the discipline of ISO 9000 documentation, audits, and management reviews as the way to clean up their act on many fronts and keep it clean as a starting point for continuous improvement. I had the opportunity to talk to engineering, purchasing, supplier quality, manufacturing, and quality people throughout Solar, and the response was unanimous. This coming from an outsider, especially those guys back in Peoria who are pretty real world and pragmatic type people, these observations, I think, really are testimonial to the success that all of you have contributed to this program. And one other comment, I wasn't even here to influence them. I was out of town, so, these really were genuine observations. And at this point, I'd really like to introduce our guest from Detnors Veritas. We're really honored to have Mr. Terje Staalstrom, who's a vice president of DNV and head of all their North and South American operations. He traveled all the way from New Jersey to be with us here today. Also, Terry, Mr. Paul Bishop. Terry is the first one over here. Mr. Paul Bishop, on the far end there, is the head of their, he's the district manager of their Long Beach office. And then we have our two special guests from Detnors Veritas that many of us have a very special relationship with, Mr. Ingvar Olsrud and Mr. Sidney Vienna. And I just want to also use this opportunity to thank them for the professionalism and the support that they've given us throughout this program. And I especially want to use this opportunity to thank Ingvar, because for many of us, this may be the last time we see him. Ingvar has gotten sick of all the sunshine in Southern California and misses those winters in Norway and has decided he's going to move back to Norway. And so we're all going to miss you and hope that you'll come back sometime to visit us. And with that, I'd like to turn the program over to Terry.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I was pleased when we were introduced as partners in a process and not as auditors or policemen. I must admit that I was afraid that you as a client sometimes see us as policemen running around with checklists and ticking off marks that you, and this is in order, this is in order, this is in order, here we have a non-conformance, etc. Because that's the way we want to be looked at. We want to be looked at as partners, maybe as facilitators, but helping you, assisting you to get through what I call a quality improvement process. Where we stand today is, as both of you have mentioned, it's just a milestone. You will get, let me put it bluntly, a small piece of paper to put on the wall, but it's a manifestation of what you have been through. You have been through, I guess, 2, 3, 4 years of a quality improvement process, and it's an ongoing process. This is just a milestone. You get a manifestation, you get a proof that you have passed a certain step in the process, and of course you can use this as a marketing tool. You can use this towards your peers and prove that you have reached a certain stage. But it's nothing more than a proof that this is where you stand today, now you have to go further. With these words, I'd like to mention one thing. Yngve Ulsrud, he's leaving us after being with us here in California for 2, 3 years. I was in Norway last week, flew over the North Sea, which is one of your most important export markets. And I must admit, looking at the quality of the weather you have here, I can't understand why someone is moving back to Norway. But we have a lot of tasks for Yngve back in Norway, and he'll be traveling internationally as a lead auditor, working with ISO 9000 and similar systems for DNV all over the world. With these words, I'd like to hand out or present the certificates. And We'll start with the power systems operations. Tom Hazlett. Congratulations. Good luck. The next one, the turbo machinery operations, Bob Monferranti. And that's fine. Superior gear from Jones. Hiding behind us. Last, not least, construction services here in San Diego, Jim Strong. Yngve has been our project manager on this important project, and I liked him to say some words about what he has experienced throughout working with you. 2 years, I guess it's about 1 year since you got the contract, but Yngve really has been working with you for almost 2 years. And I'd like Yngve to take this opportunity to tell you something about what he has learned about solar, and I wouldn't say why he's leaving it, but Yngve, pleasure.
Ron, it doesn't help that you carry that DNV tie. But it's nice anyway. Congratulations. And it has been really a pleasure working with you all. On behalf of the audit team, I would say thank you, Sydney, Vienna, and myself, and also here in San Diego. You have been meeting Raymond Leschray, all those funny names we have. What has been significant and very interesting for us when we have been working with solar is to see this quality understanding. I mean, we go from power systems to turbo machinery, we go to Dallas, to Channelview and Texel with TurboFab, and we meet people that do understand quality. It's not only abbreviation to use ISO or TQM. We meet people that actually do understand what they're talking about, and that's very challenging. It's very interesting. And so you guys have been doing really something good by implementing this and made people understand what quality is all about. And that is very impressive. We are visiting hundreds of companies. We have been doing that for quite some years. And as a commercial company, as Solar is, what you have accomplished today is very impressive. So I thank you for giving us the opportunity to be participating in that and to be able to work with you all. It was a statement that was made when we were working with Solar that we have been using in many occasions. And we were discussing the terminology doing auditing or assessment. And there was a smart guy who came up with the terminology harassment. So actually what that led to is that on my office today, on my office door, I have a name called lead harasser. My secretary put that up, and that's thanks to Solar. I don't take that personally. But it is an assessment. It's an assessment of that you do comply with your written system. And as Terje pointed out, it is on a road to continuous improvement. And I'm quite sure that Solar is on that road and that you take this very seriously. So thank you a lot.
And all of you have done an excellent job in achieving this certification, I think, in time that even exceeded our own expectations. So I very much appreciate it. I frequently get asked around here, who's in charge of quality? And who's your quality vice president? And take some pride in saying we are. meaning all of us. I am, you are, and this has been just an outstanding example of how we are in charge of quality. So thank you very much, and we'll all go back to work and work on that continuous improvement.
Invite everybody to have some cake. We have some cake.
Cake. Thank you, George. Take a coffee.
Right, right. I don't have any problems with those. The first one is a little problem because we cannot directly compare companies.
Can you not mention companies, but just say overall?
We can give an overall impression.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was
Yeah.
looking for, you know.
But it's difficult for us to kind of favorize solar compared to any other industry that you compare with, for instance.
You can talk a little bit about the how it took some time until you define, the organization. You were discussing this morning, because the solar organization is split in many different activities. So
Yeah, that's more
That's a
related
good
to the
one.
last questions, I think.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I want you, we need to keep the answers as brief as possible.
Right. Okay.
30 seconds or less if we can. I know you can't, you don't have a time clock running in your
Yeah.
head, but we're trying to keep it really short.
But
And are you both going to be able to, or should we get you both answering?
well, I
myself,
think
right,
the main answer is gonna come from Ingvar. I can help him a little bit. Yeah. When the time expires, I slap him.
Would you sit back in your chair a little bit and stay close? Yeah, so that you're sitting up straighter. If you're kind of leaning forward, like you're slouching. Yeah, don't slouch.
How is it?
That's
There is an issue that has been
In the
brought
chair?
up, I think for the union, for instance, things like that. You want to go into that? Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think we want to,
Okay.
I think that might,
Okay.
all right.
And where does he have to look?
Yeah.
here at me.
Oh.
You'll be talking to me. Both of them?
Go ahead. Nice shot.
Temps?
Yes.
Both of them looking over here?
Yes. You're just in a conversation, right? Over the shoulder there. Go ahead and get a tight shot.
Tell me when.
You're going to talk first.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the question. You tell me when. Okay, what was the main difference between the solar audit and that of other U.S. companies that you audited?
It is difficult to point out any particular issues because solar operation could be different from a lot of the others that we do audit. There is also a difference between typical commercial companies and other companies that deal with nuclear and military standards. Those seems to be a bit more prepared than commercial companies. But we found that solar's organization has been very prepared, and compared to any other commercial industry, solar is on a very high level of compliance. And we found it very challenging to work with solar on that part.
Question?
That was a really good answer. I'm wondering if we can do it again, where you start off by saying, well, how did we start that off? The next question is, what one thing impressed you the most about Solar's effort at this certification?
There's one particular issue that has been going like a red thread throughout the solar organization, whether we have been here in San Diego or in Texas or in Superior Gearing in Gardena, and that is the commitment from the employees. The understanding from employees with regard to quality issues has been very impressive. And I think we both can say that it has been very interesting because of that. And this is not something that occurs because we've been talking to management, but with people in different levels of the organization. You want to add anything there?
Yeah, quality seems to be spread all over the organization. It's not just concentrated in the management side or, the blue collars people working in the floor. So it's spread all over in the organization.
That was good. Okay. Tell us why you audit every 6 months.
In this,
Hold a second. Hi, John.
Okay.
Yeah.
All set?
Yes.
Tell us why you audit every 6 months.
in this certification process is what we call an accredited certification, and it is a formal program from the National Council in the Netherlands that we do have a follow-up audit, and that audit is decided to be every 6 months. It will not be as comprehensive as the first initial audit. We will cover some few elements of the standard, and it is to verify that you are still in compliance with what you are saying you are in compliance with, which is your documented system.
Ready?
Yeah.
What do you think are going to be Solar's biggest challenges in maintaining our certification? As you have audited us, what are our biggest challenges specifically? If you can name them?
Yes, there is a couple, and that it is the understanding of the philosophies in solar. And we have just been discussing that with Dave Lehman and Jim Owens about the commitment from the employees and how to convey this philosophy throughout the organization. I think the challenge is to keep up with that, to still make people understand and make them commit to the quality program in the long run. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I would like.
Hold a second. We'll get a touch on it.
Okay.
All right. Talk to
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is the discipline of the people in the shop floor. Like I could say now that document-wise, you have the set of procedures that you need to comply with ISO 9001 or 2, but people has to have the discipline to follow instructions now. I think that's one of your main challenges.
That was really good. We don't have to do anything over
Do
here.
we have anything else?
No, I don't.
Can I do a DNV commercial?
Okay, I'm rolling. Okay, we're gonna work on you.
No, I'm going to start to
Or-
answer. I'm going to start to
Okay,
answer
fair
and he
enough.
will.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we want
All right.
to know what is going to be required to maintain certification. What do you see as the biggest challenge to maintain certification over the future period time frame? What is it going to take to maintain certification? What is going to be our biggest challenge in your opinion?
Yeah, the biggest challenge now is, now you have been certified, you have established your procedures, they are being implemented, and the biggest challenge is to continue implementing them. And it is to give the employees the possibilities to take the procedures and change them if they like to. They have to use the procedures as a tool in the daily operation. And that means that the procedures shouldn't bind them or give them restrictions or carry out a certain type of work. If that happens, they need to have the tools to improve. And that is also, in some cases, the need to change the procedures. So,
Okay, wait, go ahead and get the other shot.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, basically, I think the biggest challenge you have now is to keep the discipline at all levels and stick to the written procedures. It doesn't mean, like Ingvar said, that you cannot change procedures. Of course you can. It's just a matter of giving the right person the authorization to change the procedures. And as soon as the procedures are established, then people have to work under these procedures.
I think the
Hold it. Go ahead and get the other shot.
Okay.
I think the key there is that it should be a living system, a system that is under continuous improvement.
Beautiful.
Anything else, Ingrid?
That's great.
You want to put any other words in there, Bob?
Let's see.